This podcast is brought to you by eHarmony, the dating app to find someone you can be yourself with. Ever wondered if there's a better way to gauge your compatibility with other people on dating apps? Well, there is on eHarmony. Thanks to their compatibility quiz, you can see what makes you compatible with other members. On eHarmony, you're one step closer to finding someone you can be yourself with without having to pretend to be someone you're not. Get who gets you on eHarmony. Sign up today.
And welcome back to Scarred for Life, the podcast where we open up old wounds by looking back at the films that scared us as kids. I'm Terry.
And I'm Mary Beth.
And each episode, our special guest brings with them a movie that traumatized them as a child.
I'm very excited because our guest this week is writer, director, and producer Jeff Seemann. Yes, that is his last name. Who most recently, well, not most recently, but most importantly to me personally, produced Bystanders. And has also directed movies like Terror Trips and worked on a bunch of really cool horror projects like Mutilator 2. Welcome to the show.
And thank you for opening up that old wound about my last name. I feel great about it.
I know. Good. Here, Scarred for Life. We're getting started right off the bat, ripping up those wounds, bullying you like you were when you were a kid.
hey, no, wait. Now, it should be noted that nobody knew what my last name meant until high school, so my childhood was pretty fucking awesome. And then
fair point.
Health class came, and my world changed.
Your teachers were probably all like, "Oh, this kid is doomed."
Last names are always so wild. My last name is Menard, and so I got, pinged a whole lot for my nards. Was like, take your hands off my nards. Like, that was
and you were a closeted. You were a closeted kid. Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, that's terrible. I never really connected the dots on that one.
In my 20s, I was dating a woman with the last name Cox, and we realized that there was never going to be a wedding announcement that we could post in the paper.
I used to work with someone whose last name was Cocks, not even Cox, Cocks.
Ouch. Yeah.
The amount of times that emails would get flagged just because you were trying to spell his name was ridiculous.
It only makes sense that we start an interview with Jeff off talking about Cox and last names. It's great.
I should have totally what do you mean about my last name? Oh, I get it now.
Years explained. Years.
Exactly. Anyway, all right. So is that it? That's it. Good night, everybody.
Thank you
that's
so
the
much for coming on
podcast.
the show. That was awesome. That was a great conversation. Thanks so much for your insights. Have a great night.
Thank you for having me on tonight.
You're welcome.
So let's talk about Bystanders a bit. And this is normally the part where I'm just like, what is this movie about? And I have two people here. So I'm like, here, you guys, what is this movie about? For those that wouldn't know, I don't know why they wouldn't know if they've listened to the podcast before, but... Yeah.
Well, let me tell you what the pitch was to me that got me interested in it, and eventually, after meeting Mary Beth, got me on board. Someone, Cole Payne, one of our executive producers, said, "Think I Spit on Your Grave meets Mickey and Mallory Knox," and that's all I needed. When I was in my early 20s, I went to a Halloween costume contest. I'd shaved my head just so I could play Mickey Knox for that. And I kind of liked how it looked, so I stuck with it. But I've loved that movie since as long as I can remember, as long as Oliver Stone, as soon as he put it out, I was a fan of it and just loved it. So that was an easy pitch to me to get me to be interested in this movie. And I think that's a good analysis of a short summary of what the movie is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, more specifically on a plot level, in case you guys haven't seen all of my millions of posts about it, it essentially is a teenager goes to a frat party. The boys drug her and her friends. They do bad things, set them off in the woods, and one of them runs across a couple coming home from a wedding, and there's more to them than meets the eye. Is the kind of short synopsis for it. Yeah.
And it was a blast to work on. I got a very good friend out of the whole deal. It just, and she and I have, I don't know, there's probably hasn't been a week except for when you were in Japan that we haven't spoken. Like maybe every day we speak.
I feel like I know, annoying you.
We bonded really well on that film. No, you're not annoying me much. But we bonded really well on the film, and through the end of it, we knew we had something at the start that could be great, and the more that we saw it come through the editing process, the more we realized just how great this movie could be. And the fact that so many festivals have opened up to it, and we've won awards.
Yeah.
It's surprising to me how quickly everybody has taken to this. I think that speaks more to Mary Beth than anything else, because what she brought to set was just nothing short of remarkable. She was on it. And for anybody who has ever directed a movie before, your first one is never as good as you want it to be. And I don't think that that's the truth in Mary Beth's case. She was a dominant force on set right from the start. I don't know how she slept or if she slept. She was constantly working on that.
Were you on set too for this, Jeff?
Oh yeah.
We
because you guys shot in Kentucky, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the cabin in the movie, Jeff slept on an air mattress in one of the rooms, and then I slept upstairs in one of the bedrooms, and then Jamie Alvey, who wrote and was Claire in the movie, slept in the other one. So like when we weren't, like Jeff like had to blow up his bed every night, like would like deflate it, roll it up. That would be like where kind of like if we weren't shooting in there, that would be like headquarters for like the monitor and everything. Yeah. And yeah, so. And
then in the main room every night, that's where the camera cart and the sound cart would go. That house was full. There were only 4 people when you count Callie sleeping on the floor in Jamie's room.
Oh, that's right.
There were only 4 of us in that house most nights, but it was really tough to move around in there once we had finished for the night because all the equipment was in there as well. It was definitely that is some low budget filmmaking right there.
Yeah,
and it worked for us. But yeah, I was there. I arrived 2 days before Mary Beth did, and then we left the same day as well in the same car. As a matter of fact, I took her to the airport. Oh. Memories. We actually we did have other people crash on our floor.
Yeah, we had people crash on the couch. Like we were packed with people because like we had housing for everyone that was there for the duration of the shoot, but then we had some people who only came for a couple days, and we were like, we have a couch, and they were like, sick, I'll sleep on the couch. Yeah. So we were it was like a revolving door of people, like the
Brian
frat boys
slept there, Bino slept there.
He did. Our frat boys would come shower at our place.
Yeah.
We did laundry.
They would show up a couple hours early, take showers at our place because where we put them, it was a community shower, which they could still have their privacy, but it wasn't in the actual location. They had to walk across this camp. And they just felt they're all in their 20s. They weren't exactly comfortable with everything, and so they just came to our place and took a shower there, which was awesome for us. We got to see them a little early, and we knew that they were feeling comfortable about the film as well. They wanted to spend more time with us at least with our shower.
Well, not to like tip the hat to what we're going to be talking about later, but this kind of gives like a camp vibe to it. Like, just sort of everyone going to this camp and working together to make something great. Like I love that. Was that the kind of the vibe on set too?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, Jeff brought his screen too and his projector. So like we would watch movies. We had when we had days, we had technically 2 days off, but we had 1 day off where we set it up and watched movies in the front yard. And during pre-production at night, we would watch movies too. And so like that was really fun. Like, it did feel like camp when we weren't working.
It did. Yeah. It really did. And we did. How many people showed up for our cookout on the Sunday in between the 2 weeks? Do you remember? I mean, we just made like leftovers and burgers and stuff.
Hamburgers and hot dogs. But, like,
there might have been 10 or 15 people there watching.
Yeah.
What was the movie that Ben showed us?
Gorgasm.
Yeah.
Gorgasm.
We watched a cut of Mutilator 2, which was great, and then we were like, everyone's gonna leave, and we're gonna watch this like super weird, like fucked up movie that our production designer Ben wanted to show me, and everyone was like, "Oh, we'll stay," and I was like,
Yeah,
"No, I
nobody
don't
left.
think." I was like, "No, I don't think this is." They're like, "Oh no, it'll be fine." I'm like, "Okay," and we started watching it, and we ended up having to stop it because I was like, "I can't, in good conscience, continue to expose like 20-year-olds to this kind of shit." Someone's gonna report me to the police for like, as a director, like showing people like weird ass snuff film pornography.
When you came back from recording, you talked about it on one of the little cuts, and I actually bought the DVD or Blu-ray because of your conversation. I haven't watched it yet, but it's
right.
somewhere. Yeah. I was like, what is this movie? So I had to buy it.
It was really a lot like a camp. The more I think about it, too, we had neighbors checking us out, stopping by to say hi. We had, the local sheriff was just going to come and close down the road for a few hours. He ended up staying like most of the night just to watch. Like, we didn't need him in the woods. He just wanted to watch. And
Sheriff Terry. His name was Sheriff Terry.
It was Sheriff Terry. And the one night we had coyotes surround us.
Yeah, that was wild.
Wait,
that was crazy.
What? I don't think I heard about this one.
That sounds weirder than it actually was. They were probably a half a mile from us, but we could hear them all around the forest, just howling away. We had to stop production for a little while we were waiting for them to calm down.
Yeah, it was all around, just like really incredible. It was really cool and kind of freaky, but we recorded a bunch of it. It was really interesting. It was like you could tell they were close, but didn't want to get too close. It was cool. It was very cool because most nights we were filming nights. Like most of it was night shoots because we were out in the woods. We couldn't. We did some day to night stuff inside, but not really. So most of it was night shoots. So we were in the woods like 3-4 in the morning, and
And then on that last night, we were hustling to get the final shot of the movie before the sun came up. As the sun was coming up, that was man. But we got through it. We made it. It was a lot of fun, and the way that our team, we had very few true rookies on our cast and crew, very very few, and the ones who were rookies just paid attention to what the veterans were doing, and there was a lot of good at adapting along the way. The one night we were gearing up to make a little hike down the hill to shoot in this one area, and as I was going to set, Mary Beth grabs me and says, "Hey, we found this other place over here that'll work better, right by the red truck, where we shot a scene." And it kind of threw me for a minute, but I realized that this was better, and that's just the type of crew that we had. They found something better closer to the cabin, which just made everything easier for us all night long. Nobody had any ego where it had to be this way. It was great. I had a blast making that one.
The joys of indie filmmaking, but then also it sounds like you had a really good cast and crew to help support this. Because I mean, when you're out there in Kentucky in the the rural area and you're making a film, like you need to make sure that you have good people.
In the smallest county in Kentucky, as we heard over and over again.
Oh, really?
Over and over again. Yes, it was very exciting.
The town, I think, had fewer people than I graduated high school with.
Wow.
And the county itself only had 3,000 people. The entire county only had 3,000 people in it. Yeah, and they were proud of that fact. And they have the restaurants and the hotels to prove it. Because none.
Yeah.
It's literally a stop sign. You go into the town, there's a stop sign, and you can either go towards the Family Dollar and like kind of out and towards Ohio, or you can go the other direction. Yeah. And there was 2 restaurants. There was the Sweet Spot that had like sandwiches, and then there was the pizza place that
had sandwiches.
And they were both really fucking good though. Like all of the food.
Oh,
was
really? That's
incredible.
Good. That's good at least.
They catered for dinners a couple nights. We if you watch the Netflix show, the new barbecue show on Netflix,
Barbecue Showdown.
Stacey Jett, who was on the show, catered a lot of our nights. 5 nights.
Really?
And made the best food we've ever had. And she was on a barbecue cooking show recently. And she has a new hot sauce out, and it's incredible. It was so good.
I just started watching that show a couple weeks ago. I'm going to have to
go
back and look.
She's the short girl with the thick Kentucky accent, the twang to her voice. Stacy, yeah, she's fantastic.
She's the best.
The thing that threw most of us, because most of us are not, small town people, she brought barbecue chicken and was so proud of it, and it was so good. And the next day I asked her, hey, that barbecue chicken was great. And she said, just let me know if you want it again. I'll just slaughter them in the morning. And I immediately was like, what? Like, I'm not used to this.
Yeah.
Nope. Wow.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, that was the best barbecue chicken I've ever had in my fucking life. Yeah. It was so good.
Wow. So the two best things about this film were the director and the catering.
So I'm curious, Jeff, how did you get into kind of horror film or producing, directing, all that kind of stuff? Was it something that you've always wanted to do, or how did you kind of get into it?
I didn't get into filmmaking until I was in my mid-40s.
Okay. He's got a cool story. Jeff's like a good example of like, you can do this shit when you're older. Like, you don't have to get into your 20s. Like, anyway, sorry, Jeff.
I was a sports writer and running websites for a large national sports company that I don't want to name, but their name sounds a lot like Fox. Fox Sports, we'll call them. Anyway, we had a bad ending. I went down to Cincinnati, Ohio, where I currently live, to start a new office there. And then within a year, the job was gone. Not my job was gone. The job was gone. So here I am, new city, very few friends. I'd only been there a year, not sure what to do. And maybe I'd been there 2 or 3 years by this point. And I talked it over with my girlfriend, and we decided, why don't I go back to college and get that degree that I never got? While I was at college, they started a film school. And the day after I graduated, I was on a film set, and I haven't had a non-film job since.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
It was, I was 45 when I first stepped on a film set for the first time. Yeah.
So there's still time for me, because I'm 44.
Yeah,
so
you got about a year though. That's it though. You only got
I just turned 44.
I was gonna say, like, just a few days ago. So you have all year. You have all year,
happy
Terry.
Birthday to you. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I'm convinced now that this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, but I also know myself really well that if something cool really popped up, I might ADD over there, like, oh yeah, this is cool. I think I'll do this. Banking for a while, whatever. No, I'm kidding. This is my passion. I absolutely love this, but I have had a lot of jobs in my life, and it took me a while to find the one that I truly love, and that's this.
I mean, you've worked on a number of really cool films as well. I was looking on your IMDb, and you worked on the Wrong Turn reboot.
Yeah,
I love that movie. And you were in it, yeah.
They put me in that movie. Spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen Wrong Turn yet. People die in it. But the one who dies, this character fell into a pit and was impaled by some I don't know what you would call those. Yeah, he was impaled, and one of the members of the foundation walks up with an arrow, pulls it back, tilts his head to the side, and shoots. That's me. So
okay, wow.
I have killed on screen.
You've killed on screen.
He's also the reason why Cheney Morrow and Hannah Fearman make an appearance in Bystanders. Jeff knows them both, and from the movies, and also they were in his movie Terror Trips that he directed.
Cheney and Hannah were two of my leads in Terror Trips, which you can see on YouTube and Tubi and Amazon Prime. Plug alert. Terror Trips was my directorial debut in 2020, and I have been working with Cheney for a while. We did Wrong Turn together. We worked on Haunt together. I just know him from around. He lives near me. And I asked him if he wanted to do this movie, and I don't think I even had to give him a script. He's like, yeah, I'll do it. Let's do this. And he was great. Damien Maffei, who you might know from Strangers Pray at Night.
Strangers. Mm-hmm.
He was going to play my lead, and he was good friends with Hannah, introduced me to her. And, he didn't have to introduce me to her to get me to want to hire her. It's Hannah freaking Fearman. And Hannah was great. Damien... This was COVID time, and Damien had to drop out of the lead role because he had 3 children that were only going to school half the time. But he came back and played a small role in our movie, and I give him producer credit because, man, he gave us so many people for that movie. But yeah, that's why Chaney and Hannah agreed to do Bystanders as well. They were only on for one day, and I don't think Chaney still has cashed his check from that movie. He wanted to do it for free. Chaney's a good guy. Yeah.
That's
but
amazing.
Hannah, that bitch, she cashed her check.
How dare she want to get paid for her work?
Hannah is the sweetest person. She is just, man, like, she's just awesome. I love working with her and Chaney, everybody. Yeah.
Oh. Wait, so Jeff, how'd you get into horror movies, though?
How did I get into horror movies? Well, my mom loves them.
Hell yeah.
I'm going to save my initial story for horror movies until we get into the part where we talk about what has scarred me for life.
Yeah.
But my mom loved them. And once I got involved with horror movies as a viewer, that is, she and I would appreciate them together. It's just been a lifelong thing, like since I was 11, which you'll hear the story in a little while, but just always been a fan. I have my genres that I like the most, my versions of the genre, little subgenres, but pretty much anything horror that you throw at me, I will give it a chance at least.
Okay. So I'm curious, what are your favorite subgenres that you kind of gravitate to? I
do love zombie movies, but they have to be, this is going to sound stupid, they have to be realistic, like a realistic zombie movie. Like I think I liked World War Z, but I think that's the limit to what I see a zombie apocalypse happening. That was a bit much.
Did you read it?
It was
Did you read the book, Jeff?
No, they made a book out of that movie. I'm kidding.
Okay. I know you fuck with me really easily, but sometimes
yes, I do.
Sometimes.
That was slick.
I have not read the book though.
It's really good. It's even more realistic. Like, it feels way more realistic than the movie in terms of just describing like what would happen as society collapses on the face of a zombie apocalypse, which is kind of harrowing to read.
My favorite zombie movie is definitely Night of the Living Dead. You can't top the original classic.
Yeah.
But I do like the 28 Days, 28 Months, 28 Years Later series, even though the third one's still coming. I just think that when it gets to the point where, no offense to my friend who was in this movie, but I think that there was one, I can't remember the name of it, but it was basically a COVID zombie movie. And I love you, Cody. I love you, but ooh. That was a rough watch.
What are your thoughts on like the kind of maybe campier ones like Return of the Living Dead?
Oh God, I love them. Yeah,
isn't that great? I love Return of the Living Dead. It's one of my faves.
When they finally made the zombies talk, that was a great movie. That could have gone in such a bad way, but it didn't. Send more paramedics is still something that I will quote every once in a while.
Me too. And it makes me so angry when like I see Cillian Murphy and other people talking about how 28 Days Later invented the running zombie. It's like, no, they ran in Return of the Living Dead in the 80s.
They ran in the original 1968 one, but it was more of the guy the very first zombie that you see. Well, they were called ghouls. He was running after that car. It just wasn't a full out sprint. Right. It just, but you're right. You were right. They were running in those. God, that was a great movie. That part 3 especially. I loved part 3.
I still did see that.
Melinda Clarke. You haven't seen Return 3?
I haven't seen 3. I've only seen the first 2.
Melinda Clarke playing the girl on the back of the motorcycle. She was so good in that one. And she realized that the pain made it better, so she's piercing herself throughout the entire movie. Oh, that's right,
because she's got that's right, because she's got all like the things sticking out of her. But you initially picked Suspiria, and we're not doing Suspiria, but I do want to hear your story about it before we get to your official pick, because I do want to know.
So we've already established that I'm old as fuck. But when I was younger, HBO did not have 9 channels. There was the HBO, there was Cinemax, there was the movie channel. We had the movie channel. The movie channel would play a movie like every 2 hours, like on the nose, every 2 or 3 hours, and then they'd play another one. So there was a schedule. It wasn't just one movie ends, another one starts. And one time Suspiria was on, and I had seen the trailer in between movies once, and the trailer was really simple. It was just a girl brushing her hair. You can see her from the back, and when she spins, it's a like from Psycho, the skeleton.
Yep. Yeah. Okay.
And
I remember that trailer.
Yeah, so that came on, and I turned it on, and I think it was 10 years before I watched the last hour and a half, because after 10 minutes, I was 13. But that first 10 minutes with those eyes in the window and then the girl getting stabbed in the heart and the getting hung in the middle of that, oh man, that shook me. And I absolutely loved every second of it, but I could not watch anymore. I was too scared. Then when I was in my 20s, I finally finished it, and I understood the barbed wire room. Like, who the hell has a room full of barbed wire? But
Dario Argento. That's all that matters.
But I'm here for it.
Yeah. But I don't know really what turned me on to Suspiria so hard early on, but I think the trailer is what intrigued me to watch it, and then it might have just been the colors were so bright. And
they're so colorful.
Yeah. The green at the beginning and then all that red, and all of a sudden, here's somebody dying in the most vicious way I had ever seen in my life. Except for that kid I killed when I was 6. That was a difficult time. I don't really want to talk about it.
I mean, we're recording right now. You might want to.
We can cut it out.
Yeah. I didn't kill anybody when I was 6, but if I did, they had it coming.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But before we get to your pick, I do want to know, has anything, like, you watch a lot of scary movies, you work on scary movies, do you still get scared of movies ever? And if so, what was the last one to scare you? Like that childhood fear?
I don't know if it's scare. I don't know if you could call the emotion that I go through anything fear. Maybe tension filled would be a better word. I can get tense over movies.
Okay.
I tensed up pretty hard at Abigail recently.
Okay.
Because I didn't see that kid coming. I knew where they were going with it, but when she turned, oh wow, she was so good.
Oh, you hadn't seen the trailer?
I went into that blind.
Oh,
that's the way to see it.
That's so good. Okay, because I was like, oh, you were a lucky one who didn't get that whole thing spoiled for you, which is so nice. Okay.
I like to do that with movies. If I can go in blind, I want to go in blind. I haven't been able to read my copy of Fangoria that just came because there are spoilers for The Substance in it, and I haven't seen that yet.
What the hell? Go see it. It's coming back to theaters because of the Oscars, so go see it in theaters.
It's $5.99 right now if I wanted to go watch it tonight on Apple TV. I just need to do it.
It's 2.5 hours, though, so you got to be ready.
That's fine. The only movie that I don't think can get away with 2.5 hours is Terrifier 3. Or whatever one was. Terrifier 2. Whatever one.
Terrifier 2. That was the 2.5. That was the 2.5
You're going to do a slasher movie with a clown. It can't be 2.5 hours. No offense to the filmmakers and especially David Howard Thornton, but I just couldn't. I couldn't, But The Substance can get away with that.
I think so.
The Substance is great. It was on top 2 on both of our lists, like within the top 2. Her 1, mine 2 for.
I would imagine it's gonna get a viewing before the end of the month. I need to see it. I can't hide from the world for much longer on that one.
I'm gonna
While you are hiding from the world, go see Companion without knowing anything about it. By the way,
yeah, don't.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. Don't watch any trailers.
But yeah, Abigail really, really shook me. Barbarian, I went in blind.
Me too.
That was such a good one to see without knowing anything. That was one of the few that they didn't betray anything in the marketing even before it came out. And I was like, more people need to do that.
And what I think was so brilliant about the way that Barbarian did it was they took Skarsgård, who is a villain in horror movies. He has played that before, and put him in the cast, and it was a total head fake, as everybody thinks, oh yeah, that's the bad guy right there.
He's being too nice. He's being too nice.
Yeah. It was so good. And it turns out that, the worst character in the movie is Justin Long. Well, besides that incredibly insane woman in the basement. But
all right, she's fine. She did a thing wrong.
Yeah, she was just trying to live her life and be happy. But yeah, things like that make it tense for me. I don't know if fear strikes me anymore, but tension definitely does.
And does Lisa, your girlfriend, sorry to bring her into this, she's warm, like she likes horror, right? For the most part? Yeah. She watches a lot of stuff with you, right?
Lisa will watch a lot of horror movies with me, but her favorites are the ones that are just downright silly, like Basket Case.
Hell yeah.
When that piece comes out of the basket and starts trashing the room, she cackles with glee over it. She loves those kind of movies. Like, she wants to see Not the Chris Farley version, but Black Sheep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The sci-fi original adjacent movies that are like kind of ridiculous but still a lot of fun.
Like she loves Piranha 3DDD, the triple D one. Loves movies like that. Just giggles throughout the entire thing.
We get along, me and her. I love those movies.
But
you know what really bothered her is she doesn't like Ty West anymore because of what he did to her in X. She's like, I don't need to see old people having sex.
Oh my god, Lisa!
I'm like, honey, we are old people, you know? No, that shook her more than alligator eats somebody. That doesn't bother her. Two old people having sex in the movie. No, she hated that. She would not watch Pearl, would not watch Maxine because of that. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, she's not missing out on Maxine, but
no, I didn't think so either. Yeah. But yeah, nope. Now, it didn't spoil her. It didn't taint her away from Ty West. Just that trilogy of movies. So maybe it's Mia Goth that she doesn't like.
There you go.
Because she loved The Sacrament by Ty West.
That his found footage movie. That movie's so good.
That's my favorite of his entire career. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
It's really good.
So yeah, but Lisa does like horror movies as well, and she watches The Last Drive-In with me whenever it's on. She usually stays up later than I do to finish the movies.
Wow.
I don't know how she got through the night that they
man.
did Things and Sledgehammer, but she did. I know. Dear God.
All right, old man. Now that we've talked about how you got into horror and working with my ass on Bystanders, what movie did you bring with you today for us to talk about?
Well, kids, gather around the fireplace, and I'm going to tell you about a movie they made in 1980. Friday. I'm actually shaking my hand like I was, Friday the 13th, the original Friday the 13th. Long Night at Camp Blood, originally called. Correct? Is that right?
I think so. Yes.
So everyone knows what this movie is, but just to keep with our format, in Friday the 13th, a group of teenage camp counselors attempt to reopen an abandoned summer camp with a tragic past, but they are stalked by a mysterious and relentless killer.
Before we get to your story, I have to ask the most important question, the most divisive question. Is it or ch?
It's ma.
Yeah, I messed that up at the beginning.
Because Harry
the
Manfredini
longest time.
It's kill mom. Killer mommy. It's the ma is what it is.
It's so smart, but for my entire life, I would go around going ch, because that's what it sounded like, and it still sounds like that to me. I rewatched it just today for prep, and I was like, I know what they're saying now, but I still cannot make it be anything other than ch.
Yep. And when Lisa wants to razz me, she will intentionally mess it up just to watch me twitch. That's not
All right. So that aside, take us back. How old were you when you saw this? I know you kind of teed it up a little bit. How did you see this? What about this movie terrified you? And why is this your Scarred for Life pick?
Okay. Well, it was my Scarred for Life because I was 11 when I saw it. And my viewing experience of this movie was incredibly unique. It was opening weekend for that movie. And back when everything was in black and white when I was a kid, I don't know if you knew that. The world actually was in black and white.
It was, yes.
Movie theater or drive-in movie theaters were multi-screen back then. You go to a drive-in, wasn't just one screen. There were multiple there. And we pulled up to watch some comedy. I don't even remember what it was. And I'm in the back seat. My brother on the other side. I'm behind the passenger side. And off to the right is a movie playing, and it's just some teenage kids, and they're all gathering around this campgrounds, and and keep in mind, I can't hear it because the speaker that was set up in our window was for the comedy movie that we're watching right in front of us. So I don't know what the hell they're talking about. I'm just watching, and hey, there's some pretty girls here. Oh, this is cool. And all of a sudden, Annie is running away from the killer as she escaped from the Jeep. And I'm watching it and watching, and that knife comes across her throat and blood pours out. I didn't even know I was watching a horror movie. I had no idea what it was, but here's this girl with blood spilling out, and that was a really good special effect for 1980 as well.
Yeah.
And I'm just stunned by it, and my eyes are glued to that screen, and at some point my mom turned around to see why I wasn't laughing at the things that the rest of the family was, and she realized what I was watching, looked over, and then they moved the car up a little closer to the screen so I couldn't see the rest of the movie. But that was it for me. I was hooked on horror. I had to know what the name of the movie was. I probably drove my mom and dad crazy that I wanted to see the rest of it, and no, I wasn't allowed to, but now I'm hooked. And when I finally did see the full movie, which wasn't that much long, they did cave to me.
Wow.
I understood what was happening in it, but that first slice, because there's no tension when you can't hear the movie. You can't hear that score playing. Harry Manfredini's score. You can't hear her cries for help or nothing. Can't hear the leaves rustling under. All I'm seeing is just this woman running through, and then all of a sudden, right across her throat. And it fucked me up.
Yeah.
And as a result, that will never leave my top 3 of horror movies of all time. They usually rotate around between the original Halloween and Night of the Living Dead, but one of those 3 is always on top based on the mood that I'm in that day, I think. It made me want to watch horror movies for the rest of my life. It eventually enabled my desire to create and make horror movies. It's a central focus of who I am, which is really messed up to say, but it's true. And then, and I have an addendum to this. The Camp Crystal Lake from that movie actually exists.
Okay.
It is a Boy Scouts camp, in fact. And the kids at the camp use the legend of Jason to scare the newcomer kids. Like they talk about Jason being in the woods. But they do tours there every once in a while through Crystal Lake tours. And the one time that I went, Robbie Morgan, who plays Annie, the girl that I saw get killed, was there as a special guest. And when I got to sit down and talk to her and have her sign an autograph, I told her, "You are my first kill that I have ever seen," except for like Bambi's mom, but that doesn't count. But that she was the first kill, and that she is the reason why I am who I am, because after seeing that, and you don't really expect, oh my God, you saw me die, that's so sweet. But that's what Robbie said. She was like, that is the greatest story. And I got to tell her on the campgrounds of Crystal Lake.
That is fucking cool.
Yeah,
you know, I've always said that it's a shame to me that Robbie plays Annie, because I love her so much.
Yeah.
She is probably my favorite part of that movie, and she's only in it for the very opening bit, and then she's gone. And it's kind of smart because, like, she is the first person we see in the present time, so we immediately assume that she's going to be the hero, and she's going to be the heroine. That's going to be the final girl. And nope, like Psycho, she gets offed really quickly. But like, I love her in that so much. And every single time I watch it, I get sad when she dies, because like, she is so good in this movie.
Yep. I thought she would have been better as if they had flipped her and Marcy. I kind of thought that Annie looked like she would be more with Kevin Bacon. I thought that it would have given her more time on screen. No offense to you, Marcy. I just thought that's who I saw it was. I'm never going to want to change out Adrienne King's character as Alice Hardy, because she just owned that so well. And she's such a sweetheart. I actually buy wine from Adrienne King's winery.
I saw that she doesn't, and she names it off after something with Friday the 13th, right?
It's Crystal Lake Winery.
Crystal Lake Wine. Okay.
And she does have specific strands that are named after certain things, but she has to be careful that she can't name it. It can't be Jason Voorhees Merlot or anything like that. But
right.
She does give those hints away, and then she autographs every bottle before it goes out.
That's amazing. Is it good wine? It's good wine.
Yeah. I mean, gets me drunk, so yeah.
Hey.
Then again, everything gets me drunk. So no, it is good wine. I would highly recommend Crystal Lake wines.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah.
But that movie it stuck with me. It's a comfort watch now. It doesn't give me the same tense feeling that I did early on, but it just gives me this level of comfort, like, this is such a great movie. Lisa's definitely sick of it by now. I actually took her to Camp Crystal Lake in New Jersey, and she had a good time with it, but that's about that. She drew the line when we tried to go over to the Hell House LLC house. She came with me, but she was not happy about it.
Oh, I would have loved to go to that.
That's in Pennsylvania, in Lehighton, Pennsylvania. It's a pretty cool place too. Oh. Lisa still says that she thinks she got black lung from being inside that place because it was really moldy.
Oh, you went inside of it?
Oh yeah, we got the whole tour. It looks exactly like it did in the movie. Like it's a working haunted house. Like,
whoa, I didn't know that.
You go there in October and tour it, and there are actual scare actors that will come out at you. It was a haunted house before Hell House LLC. They just adapted it.
Oh, I don't think I realized that it was a haunted house before Hell House. I mean...
Yeah, it's called shoot, I can't think of what it's called. I don't know. I'll think of it, and I'll just blurt it out at some point during this. But the clown is in there.
That clown.
Yeah. That clown is definitely creepy. The Waldorf Estate of Fear in Lehighton.
Okay.
What an incredible name.
It's an incredible building, yeah. Like $10 to go tour a movie location and get scared at the same time? Hell yeah.
It's fair. True.
But when I went there with Lisa, they gave us a tour during daytime hours so that I could shoot B-roll footage for my movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's parts of my movie shot inside of the of Hell House.
That's wild.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
That's fun.
Anyway, but Friday the 13th, that's my movie.
So when you had a chance to finally to watch it, did it still scare you, or was it that initial shock of of Annie getting her neck sliced?
I think especially the way that Jack died, Kevin Bacon, I think that may have actually messed me up and scarred me even more when I got to see the rest of the movie, because there was some viciousness to that movie.
Yeah.
So I think I was exhilarated to see Annie die again, because it's like, oh, I want to experience this again. And then I realized, shit, I got another hour of kills just like this to go. And as they came through, oh man, I just loved it. Right down to the end, to the. Not so much coming out of the lake to bring Alice in, but Mrs. Voorhees' death. Spoiler alert.
I think if you didn't know the truth about Friday the 13th and how it ends, then I don't know what to tell you.
Can't help you.
Yeah, what are you doing on this podcast?
Help you there, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly.
So you brought up Kevin Bacon's death, which that death always kills me, because I just imagine that Mrs. Voorhees had to basically lay under that bed the entire time while they were fucking.
Yeah.
And so while the one dude is dead above them, she's hiding below them, and they are just going to town, and she is just waiting to jab that arrow into his neck. And I love this idea of little old Mrs. Voorhees laying under the bed while Kevin Bacon is getting his rocks off.
I'm still trying to figure out how she got Ned up onto that top bunk, because she's not a big woman.
No, she's not.
Yeah, the bunk above, and then throwing Brenda through the window. How'd she do that? Crazy people must have insane amounts of strength.
It's one of those movies that it's like, don't think too hard about it. Like, don't worry about it. Don't think about it. Don't try to like put logic in it. It's a slasher.
That's our whole genre, though. You've got to suspend disbelief on things like that. Yeah, but I just love everything about that movie. Could watch it any time of day, any day of the week. Just love it.
Okay, so why? Why do you love Friday the 13th? So, like, what is it about Friday the 13th that you love so much? Because I'm a hater. So, like, I want to know from you, like, what about this like movie and this franchise that you love so much?
Well, for me, it's probably more of a nostalgic thing, because it is a part of my childhood. But more than anything, it really just... You don't hear this most of the time from people who love horror movies. Watch it again. I'm sure you two both have know this, but there's no sound. There's no score except when the killer is around. And that silence that you get in the movie that gives you that sense of, okay, everything's going to be fine. Uh-oh, here comes the music. It gives you this roller coaster of emotions just from the score. And that is so rare. And I'm sure that they learned that from like Psycho. But there's just something about when you could like that score is a character in the movie, as far as I'm concerned. It is an entirely other character in the movie. And when it shows up, yeah. And I think that might be more to do anything is that roller coaster of emotions that you get. You do get the chance to, okay, I can breathe. Oh shit, I can't now. Now I can breathe again. It goes back and forth, and it just riles me up, and I love that about it. And as far as the fact that you're a hater of it, It's okay to be wrong, Mary Beth. It's okay to be wrong.
You know, Friday the 13th is not my franchise. I will say that up front. I was a Fred head. I loved Freddy Krueger as a kid. My parents didn't let me watch a lot of Friday the 13th movies, I think because they were being associated with nudity and sex and everything. And so my parents were a little bit, when I first started being able to watch horror movies, they were a little bit more lenient on R-rated movies if they were focused on violence and gore. But nudity, I had to like cover my eyes, and that's something that like I kept with me for my thoughts about this franchise is all about the nudity aspect of it, to be perfectly honest, because I remember, I don't know which movie it was, because I have a hard time remembering which one of these I saw first when it comes to Friday the 13th movies, but I remember seeing one at my my babysitter's house. Her name was Dottie, and she was this little old lady, but she loved horror movies. And so I kind of got a bit of a horror education from her whenever I would when I'd be over at her house after school and whatnot. And she had I think it was a grandchild that she was probably in her late teens, like college year maybe. And she was like, there was one time and she's like, we're going to watch Friday the 13th. I don't remember which one it was, but here I am, little old me, probably like I had to be maybe 9 or 10 at the time. And anytime there was nudity, I would sit there and I would do this. It was me, just literally me and this 20-year-old girl. And she's like, why are you doing that? And I was like, I can't look at this. I'm not allowed to. And she's like, there's no one here. And I'm like, I can't. I don't want people to take away my ability to watch these movies. And that was like a routine that continued through my entire childhood until my parents decided, oh, you can't watch any more R-rated movies. But Friday the 13th, that is what I associated with it, is me sitting there going like this, hearing the sounds of people either having sex or, you know, nudity or whatnot, but not being able to see it. That is like my attachment to this movie, to this franchise, really, is that.
And then Wes Craven gave you that with the original Nightmare, because you could hear Tina and Rod having sex, but you didn't see it.
Didn't see it.
You could hear it. Morality sucks.
Didn't have to close my eyes.
Yeah. Hey, I think now I can show X to Lisa again. I just got to get her to go like that when the old people.
There you go. She could just hear old people having sex.
I know, man. There was a lot of moisture in that scene too. She would hear it. You know,
it really was.
Yeah, there was. It was an uncomfortable amount of moisture. I wish your viewers could see Mary Beth's face.
I know, Mary Beth's face.
That's the greatest face I've ever seen her make. This puzzled yet disgusted look on her face, like she wants to smack me.
So yeah, but yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this franchise. However, when I rewatched this one, I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to put all of my past behind and just sort of sit there. And I'll tell you what, the score is my favorite part about this movie. Yeah. I was like, okay, I see this. We're getting a lot of Psycho in this, which makes sense with the way the movie is structured initially, with the one character, again, that you think maybe is going to be the heroine and is off, and then we don't see her for the rest of the movie. So there's that. There's the score with a lot of like violins and the like it definitely has that feeling of Psycho, but it also has the feeling of Jaws with like the like it's, you hear that and you immediately tense, just like when you hear the John Williams score with Jaws. So I'm like, there's a lot going on the audio side of things that I've never really appreciated before, that I was really like, okay, this is doing some really cool things.
I would have to do my homework on this one to make sure I'm right about it, but I think that and Halloween were the first ones to really, if you have sex, you're going to die. The more I think about it, I'm probably wrong about that, but it's definitely the first ones of my life that I saw. You know, I'm already thinking back to the house that, or the town that dreaded sundown. There was a definite, if you have sex, you're going to die, especially in a car in Texarkana. But I think that brought it to the mainstream. That and Halloween brought it to the mainstream more. The original rules of horror movies, like Randy was talking about in Scream. Yeah, you know, smoking weed, you're having sex, you're going to die. And both Halloween and Friday the 13th incorporated that. I didn't realize it about both movies, but they were stoned in that movie. When they're playing strip Monopoly, they're getting high. I didn't know what a glow was when they quoted that in the movie, but now I do. I'm like, holy shit, I can't believe my mom let me watch this movie.
Exactly, because she didn't know what it was. She was like, "Fuck it, he's not going to understand, so it's fine." But
I will say, sorry, Mary Beth, really quick. I will say that what I like about Alice is that, we always think about the final girl as being like the kind of tomboy and sexless, but she's participating in the strip monopoly. Like she's not a goody two shoes at all. And so I was like, I'm curious where the idea came from that is sort of the thing that happens with final girls, where they're the tomboyish, because that has always been like a stereotype, and I don't see that with Alice.
I mean,
I think it's just Carol Clover writing the theory and like theorizing more generally about horror film, and then I think some people taking it so to heart to like it's really interesting, like watching these movies after reading so much film theory about like the final girl and realizing like was she really, like, was she watching these movies the right way? Which, like, it sounds terrible because, like, this is, like, a quintessential text for me as an academic. But it is really interesting, like, in watching these movies and being like, how in-depth, like, how much did she watch these movies? Or how, like, I don't know. It's interesting to kind of reassess it. Because I've been rereading it recently and, like, kind of reassessing all that. It's very interesting to see, like, especially from... She was writing it so long ago. It's just interesting to see how much has changed. And she wrote it, I think, in the 90s?
And I might be right about this one, though, but I think that Alice in Friday the 13th might have been at least one of the first final girls that did not need a man's help at the end. Yeah. She cut off Mrs. Voorhees' head by herself. But like Halloween, 2 years earlier, it was Dr. Loomis that saved Laurie Strode in that one. She didn't become a badass until later versions of the movie along the series. But no, Alice, man, she took matter into her own hands, which that didn't seep into me when I was 11 and 13 watching it in its 11 the first time and 13 watching it in its entirety. But the more you look at it now, that's a true final girl right there. She did not need anybody.
Yeah, that's a good
She's
point.
really resourceful.
Yeah. And she wasn't even supposed to be there. She was supposed to head back to California.
Yeah.
And then in the start of part 2, she is in California. How the hell did Jason get out to California to kill her? But then again, if we're gonna go there, we're gonna talk about part 8, where how do you get a boat from a lake into New York City Harbor? Yeah, exactly.
But it's funny watching this now after filming in a town that kind of looks like the town at the beginning and filming in the woods. I just like, because like watching the beginning when Annie is going through town, I'm like, that's like Mount Olivet, like a one street town. Like it is so interesting watching movies now as a filmmaker who's had this experience of being like, I wonder what did they hang out with the locals? Did they know what they were doing? Like, what was that shooting like? I'm so curious.
I actually have asked that, and no, they didn't mingle with the locals when they were filming in Blairstown or Blairsville. The town kind of just gave them their space. There wasn't much intermingling going on, and that town looks exactly the same as it did in that movie. There's one addition to it. They added a Friday the 13th museum.
Okay.
Everything looks the same. The diner that Steve Christie goes to and eats is still there. It's owned by fans of the movie now, so they have like Jason burgers and stuff like that.
Oh, cool!
That town has embraced their place in the legend, and it's really nice to see.
I'm gonna have to go visit there. That sounds really cool.
Look up crystallaketours.com, and then, or you can just go to Blairstown yourself. Is it? I keep getting that mixed up because of the Blair Witch Project is Burkittsville, so it's Blairstown. But yeah, you can just visit Blairstown yourself, and there are maps all over the internet where you can find the exact spot where certain things were filmed. The campground stuff itself and the lake, you need to buy a ticket to the tour to see, because that's off limits. But everything else in that town's wide open. That Moravian cemetery is still there with the same arch sign.
Really?
It's a cool little thing there.
Oh, that's so neat.
2 of my best friends in the world do these horror movie location scouts, the same as I like to do, which is what Terror Trips is about. And yeah, we share that information with each other all the time. Every once in a while, I'll get a weekend. Hey, we're gonna go to the middle of North Carolina and see where they filmed the scene from Cabin Fever, where the kid goes into the general store. That store still exists.
Pancakes.
Exactly. He shouldn't sit next to them. But yep, we do that sort of thing, and Friday the 13th is definitely, that brings back a lot of nostalgia going into that town and seeing that place like that.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Oh.
Well, before we wrap up, though, I want to know, what is your favorite entry in the franchise besides the original?
4.
Which one is 4?
4 is the final chapter. Whatever. It's Crispin Glover doing his weird dance. He's in that one. And it's Tommy Jarvis as a child, played by Corey Feldman. He and his sister do the killing of Jason at the end. It's that one.
Okay. Yep. I do remember this one.
Okay.
And, yeah, because
that one will ever top the original for me, but I do love that one. It was just vicious and brutal and hilarious at the same time. And that kill at the end of part 4 where he slides down the machete and his head splits open. Oh, I freaking love that kill. That was a great one. Tom Savini did great work on that.
I mean, you just have to give this movie props for the kills and the style. I love this movie because I forgot, one, like, the older guy with the curls who was in just jean shorts and is shirtless with, like, the net, like, kind of like a hot doctor guy, Sam Neill in Jurassic Park. It's like him, but without a shirt.
Yeah.
Walking around just being, hot, question mark?
Yeah.
But then we also have, like, the sweater. We have Mrs. Voorhees' sweater, which is always iconic and my favorite. And it's like, I love how these movies are so stylish in their own way. Because, like, when we talked about this movie many years ago on the podcast, we talked about how, especially the Kevin Bacon kill is very inspired by, is it Bay of Blood? That movie?
I think so.
The harpoon kill. And just, like, how in other ways the kind of these movies harken back to Giallo in a really cool way with the style, with, like, don't ask questions about the logic of it all. Who fucking cares? And watching this now and thinking about those references are really interesting, and seeing how in conversation all these movies really are with each other.
It's just so many things about that movie just will always bring happiness to me. One quick story before we wrap up. I got to produce a movie 2 years ago starring Sosie Bacon, Kevin Bacon's daughter. And this was just before Smile was coming out. And she knew that I was big into horror movies and asked me to watch the Smile trailer and tell me what you think, because I'm nervous about this and I know you love horror. And I loved the trailer. And I brought up a point and I said, the trailer's really good about this because one thing that horror movies can do well is there's this silent moment and then all of a sudden, pow, something happens. And I love that about horror movies, and so will main horror movie fans. And I said, that's a lot like the scene with your dad in Friday the 13th. And she said to me, oh yeah, I've never seen that movie. It was like a knife through the heart. And she later told me the reason why she hadn't seen it. And I don't really want to share it on the podcast, but it makes sense. And she didn't want to see it because her dad was in it. She specifically didn't want to see it because her dad was in it. But it just struck me like, your dad was in this movie. You've never seen his death scene. Nope, never saw it.
I mean, to be fair, I probably would not want to see my dad looking as hot as Kevin Bacon does in the Speedo before he jumps into the lake. Yeah. Like, I'm like, thank you, Sean S. Cunningham, for giving us Kevin Bacon in a Speedo and that was, so many short shorts.
There wasn't much to leave to the imagination when he scanned down
sure
that
wasn't.
Wall. Not at all. No.
There sure wasn't.
I don't know. She might have been lying to me about never having seen it, so she didn't have to talk about it with me. But she was a lot of fun to work with, and I'm so glad to see that Smile made it big, helped her out, gave her a nice big movie to add to her credits.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Especially in our genre.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, so Friday the 13th is my movie. I absolutely love it. You can get me to talk for hours about it if you want.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, should we wrap this up and get this rating out of 5, Terry?
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
All right, Terry. How many white cable knit sweaters do you give Friday the 13th?
So it was interesting. When I was adding it to my letterbox today, I noticed that I had given it a 3 stars. And I have to say, I'm going to go back and I'm going to change it after this, because I think there's a lot more going on in this than I typically give it credit for. I do think that Alice is a great final girl. I think Adrienne King is fantastic. I love her trajectory in this film. I love how resourceful she is. I was watching this with my roommate earlier, and I was like, what would you do in this case if you were Alice and you find one of your friends arrowed into the door and you realize, oh, things are not right here. And she's like, I have asthma. I probably would just give up. And I was like, yeah, I mean, same. But here's Alice who, like, you know, she jury rigs the door with the rope. She's thinking about it. She's closing the window blinds. Like, she's doing all these things that I'm like, this is a very resourceful person. And I love how strong she is. You mentioned, Jeff, that she doesn't need a man to kill Mrs. Voorhees. And like, I love that. I also love Mrs. Voorhees because she is that bitch. She is that bitch that is like,
yes.
It's more familiar now, but like at the time, a female slasher killer, like, no, that's not in the 80s. That's not what I saw. And so I'm like, this is great. Her reason, sound.
Yeah.
I like that the movie is sort of a ghost story in and of itself. Like, I grew up in Alaska when I was a kid, so we never really had camps to go to, but I'm thinking all camps have like a good ghost story. And so I love that this starts out as a ghost story about Jason, but then at the very end of it, where he jumps out and grabs her and then she wakes up and she's like, he's still out there. It leaves it as like a ephemeral ghost story in and of itself. And like, this is a lot better than I was ever giving it credit for. I will still not enjoy the rest of the movies for the most part. Like, there's some that I really do. I have some moments for, but like for the most part, but this movie rocks. I am going to up my score to 4 fantastic, what is it, cable net
sweaters. Yep.
White cable knit sweaters sweaters out of 5. What about you, Mary Beth?
1.5.
So I also gave it 3 on Letterboxd, and I am staying by my 3 cable knit sweaters. I still appreciate this movie for what it is. I do love her as a final girl, and Mrs. Voorhees is an icon. I like this movie. I think he's not my favorite. Like, Jason is not my favorite slasher villain, and I know this one is different because it's the mom versus not actually him, and I find that so funny how this like franchise has evolved. I think it's so indicative of horror, and not in a bad way necessarily, but I still really enjoy it. It's a 3 for me, dog.
3 is fine. 3 is fine.
All right, Jeff, you have the final word. How many white cable knit sweaters?
It's the one that scarred me for life. It can't be anything less than a 5. It has to be for me. It's just, to me, it's everything that I grew up wanting in a horror movie, and it gave it to me in my first one. The total fear out there in the woods, the score, the final girl, the fact that they got this legendary actress, which I didn't know at the time, of course, to play the killer, who had no idea what she was getting herself into, that it would end up being so big. Just everything about it was just, and the more I learn about this movie, the more I love it. It would be hard-pressed outside of a Harvey Weinstein story to ever get me to look negatively on that film in any way. It was such a part of my formative years, and it still remains to this day. The fact that I've been to that campground 4 times in my life speaks volumes.
Wow,
4 times. Wow. It's all still there. Alice's cabin has burned down, but they rebuilt it. Everything else is exactly the same.
Wow.
Yeah. When they do renovations, they take they make sure that it looks exactly the same as the 4. Any wood that gets replaced needs to look the same, like it'll match the original aesthetic of the film. And
wow.
Yeah, the only thing that has changed is the guard tower, and they don't have that square raft where that's that's different now. But everything else exactly the same, right down to the archery area. It's still there too.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Something that continues to exist in my world and isn't just a movie that I revisit, that it's part of a lifestyle. I can't go anything less than a 5 on something that's affected me that much.
Oh yeah, I get that. Well, thank you so much, Jeff, for joining us to talk about Friday the 13th. Are you online? If so, where can listeners find you? And otherwise, the floor is yours to plug away with what you have coming up.
I'm on Blue Sky at Jeff from Ohio. You can find me there. Look up my name. It's spelled Seemann if you want to find me on Facebook. I'm there. I don't think TikTok is going anywhere. By the time this airs, it might be gone, but I doubt it. You can find me there as Horror Filmmaker on TikTok. And other than that, I don't go too overboard. I left Twitter because fuck that guy.
Same.
But those are my main ones. There would be. You can also find me at Jeff LRB, Larry Richard Bob. I guess LRB is my production company, but you can find me there on Instagram.
And listeners will have all of that out in the show notes for you.
Wonderful. As far as plugs go, Mutilator 2 I produced in 2022. That is set to come out soon. 2022. Oh my God, has it been almost 3 years? They were struggling to find a distributor for it because Mutilator isn't like most horror movies. It's something different. And Mutilator 2 is no different from that. It is a genre of its own. That should be coming out soon. I have this weird little movie shot in Kentucky coming out on Tuesday of this next week called Standing By. What is that called? Bystanders? That's coming out, and then there's a few other movies that you'll be hearing about pretty soon. Follow me on some socials, and we'll talk about it.
I'm very excited for Mutilator 2 to come out. I've been wanting to see it.
It's good.
So I'm excited.
It's very much a Buddy Cooper movie, just like the original. He's only made two movies. They're both mutilators, and they're both a lot of fun and weird.
It's fun.
I think it's amazing.
She says that as she's yawning. It's fun. Oh.
It's fun.
Yeah.
All right,
but
listeners.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. It's been a fun time.
Hell yeah.
I love you. Anyway, listeners, you've heard from us. We want to hear from you. What was your experience with Friday the 13th? Send us an email at scarredforlifepodcast@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us directly on social media. I am on all of the platforms because I unfortunately will be until I die because of my job. I am at MB McAndrews on X and Blue Sky, and at mb.mcandrews on Instagram.
And I'm at Gaily Dreadful everywhere, but mostly on Blue Sky.
And the podcast is kind of on Twitter, mostly on Blue Sky, at Scarred Podcast, and sort of on Instagram at Scarred for Life Podcast.
And I remember to update it.
And please don't forget to, when it comes out, go see Bystanders.
Yes.
Go see Bystanders.
Go see Bystanders, and please don't forget to review, rate, and subscribe.
And thank you to Eric Power for artwork. Thank you to Sean Keller for our music. Thank you everyone for listening. Please stay safe out there. But most importantly, stay creepy.